Okay, we're at the third episode and things are about to get serious. We're at the stage just before building, which means doing mockups and specifications. In this episode, we will work with Balsamiq. Balsamiq is a tool to make mockups. It is a free tool, anyone can download it. If you can use Gmail, you can probably use Balsamiq too. So please check out Balsamiq. You'll see quite a bit of it in this episode. A little bit more tricky.
A little bit more tricky.
Whatever you think is a logical decision is not necessarily logical for a developer.
But this is super MVP. This is our SaaS product and it's just getting better and better every day. My questions to you from here would be, how much is this costing us?
We will be talking a lot about MVP, minimum viable product. That's what we're doing in this episode. To get the ball rolling, we build a minimum viable product. We'll also talk about a super MVP, and I'll get back to what that is exactly later in the episode. I told Will and Brant to start working in Balsamiq, to start building some mockups in Balsamiq. They've now had a few days, and it's time to take a really good look at what they've put together.
Ina, we need your help.
Building a product completely from scratch.
Scalero is trying to build a SaaS tool to help companies build better emails.
It's going to make email creation easy.
There will be many challenges.
I would love your help, Heine.
I'm gonna do whatever it takes to help them.
Ball.
This is Raw Startup.
The objective here in the super MVP is to just two things: create a functional ticketing system. And then the second thing is ability to host email designs and email builds so that we can provide feedback to our subcontractors. So moving down to the dashboard screen. So the idea here is this will be the main dashboard that you land on when you come into our tool. It is functions in two ways. One, you can get a project started. If I'm a subcontractor, I can create a ticket. I can upload a designer. I can upload an email build. And then on the flip side, we'll also have an overview of all of our outstanding email projects, whether it's early in inception and it's just a ticket, whether it's kind of midway through and it's a design, or when it's at the final stage and it's a full-on email build. So it provides an overview here. And it also gives our subcontractors kind of a launching off point to do various tasks in our tool. How detail oriented should we be? Should we leave nothing ambiguous, or should we only kind of flesh out the most important details here at this stage?
Yeah, I think important is that you don't leave out things that you're going to have to decide as you develop this product, right? And if you do a list of 7 fields that need to be filled in, you can't put out 4 and then say, etc. Somebody's going to make that decision, and that should be you. It should not be a developer.
Got it. That makes sense. In your experience working with developers on some of these early stage projects, you're making it sound like they don't like back and forth. They don't want to have to go through a spec and then come back to us and ask us questions. Oh, well, you left out this part. What do you want to do here?
A couple of things. You will definitely slow you down. And whatever you think is a logical decision is not necessarily logical for a developer. And because you have some experience and so as well, you might completely agree. So, of course you do it like this. But there's no of course when you're a developer somewhere in the world that has never done this task before.
Got it. Yep, makes sense. I think this could potentially be confusing for subcontractors and clients. So I think what we'll need to do is try to do it as well as we can to start, and then start collecting feedback and see how people are using it intuitively and make changes as need be. Yeah.
You can't know these things yet. You will learn them as you go along.
Right. Makes sense.
Although, it's just better to see what the feedback is, and what's also going to happen, it's going to, as you use the tool, it's going to get more messy and so on. So in the beginning, it might look fine with these limited features, and then it gets more messy, and then you solve that as that happens.
Right. Exactly. Yep. The idea in this tool is that design is essentially the middle phase here. So, you start with the ticket. Your next phase is a design, and then your next phase is an email build. So here, naturally, we have 4 buttons that either take you back to the tickets or back to the builds or maybe a new version of the design. So green buttons are suggestions for keeping things internal. If we're working with a team that they feel good about this, they can just click upload new version. It'll be prompted to upload a new design. If they do upload HTML build now, they'll be prompted to add on HTML for this corresponding design. And then the orange buttons, those are our symbols of working with Scalero. So for this super MVP, if we have a subcontractor that clicks request redesign or request HTML build, that'll ping Will and I to kind of move it along this next step. Eventually, though, in a kind of longer term vision project here, this probably pings. It's actually the clients clicking these, and it's pinging our subcontractors to start working on these kinds of things, and Will and I can be completely out of the process.
Perfect. Okay, cool.
All right, now in this next section, review specific build screen. Once again, we haven't worked on this. It'll be very similar, but slightly more complicated than the design interface. The extra complication is that not only will we be working in design, we'll also have HTML associated with the design. So you'll be able to toggle between HTML and how it's actually previewing. Yeah. And then we'll also.
But you're in a browser, it shouldn't be that complicated.
Shouldn't be that complicated. We're also going to want to do a changelog, kind of like what GitHub is doing with their code interfaces when people make updates.
A little bit more tricky.
A little bit more tricky. One of the pain points in email is there aren't really tools like this. So, if I'm using Litmus and I'm making changes, they're not really tracking my changes.
No. I like that feature a lot.
Yeah, changelog will be nice. And we also want to give the flexibility to our clients and subcontractors to just fiddle with the word, make some changes themselves. One of the pain points with these kind of tools right now is, when clients or subcontractors want to make tiny changes, they have to upload a new version from the very start and work all the way over again, when usually the client or subcontractor can just do it themselves. I don't need to I don't need to be an expert in HTML to learn how to capitalize the word and. So I should be able to come in and do that myself. And again, streamline this email workflow process much quicker than some of the existing tools out there today.
Yeah. Then we get to the user stories, which basically is just a repetition and to make sure that you're actually telling a story about what happens every time you do something.
Yeah, most of these, we've explained in some way. There's only so many ways to get lost in this MVP, but I think one thing that's Scalero, Brant and I will be looking for is progress on the tickets from our subcontractors. Yeah. And so the first story is when we want to find a ticket that's maybe a little bit older, it's down the screen. We're on the dashboard, but it's not showing up as one of the most recent tickets. So we go into the ticket tab, and then the example here is it's the 7th oldest ticket. We then click into it and we see that it was estimated to take 4 hours. 2 hours have been completed. So now it's 50% done. And then it's up to Brant and I to figure out from there if that's acceptable or not with where we are and if we need to push harder or whatever the scenario might be.
Cool. Are you sure you want this in the MVP, super MVP?
The percentage of estimated at this point?
Yeah, I mean, this is a little bit, it's not like it's rocket science. It's just more work and more complexity.
Yeah. It's a good question. We'll think about that. It could be, I guess super MVP, it probably makes sense just to have either done or not done, right?
Yeah. You think about this while you design a simpler version. That could be one way of doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So this could be better for client facing when we get to that point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then user story 2 is the same, but looking at a design instead of a ticket. So we can move ahead to number 3, which is giving feedback. And this is, again, we kind of talked about this, the Google Docs kind of look here of leaving feedback and having comments resolved, et cetera. And the key here is to make sure that you can go directly into the image to leave that feedback so that there's nothing left to chance here, that exactly If it's Brant leaving the feedback, he's telling the designer exactly where the question is, and so there's no debate, no kind of Slack messages, emails back and forth. It's right here for the communication.
And what does that mean? Is that an arrow or is that a box? What is that?
It's a box that will appear with the comments next to it.
Okay. So if I'm pointing at a red dot on the design saying this thing needs to be green, then I just put on a box or something.
Yeah, and then your comment will be next to it saying this thing needs to be green.
Okay, cool. You might have to go and explain that a little bit more clear here.
Okay.
Just be very literal in how you see that. Cool. I have no idea of the technical part of this, so the developer has to sort of look and say, hey, this is tricky, we can do it like this. So and that's fine, you be flexible at that point. Okay, there is some reference to a super MVP. Let's talk about that before we move on. I recommended Will and Brant to look at 2 developers. Rather than just starting with one, do a very, very small project with 2 developers and then pick one in the end. So they're looking into building a super MVP, a small project of less than 20 hours that 2 developers look at. Then when the project's done, look at both projects, see how it went, how was the communication, how did the developer do. So the super MVP is a core feature of the project, but a small one, less than 20 hours work. The super MVP might not be super viable. It's there to find out how good the developer is and what it's like to work with the developer. It's a really good idea to make sure the super MVP has some core things of the project. So whatever the core features of the project are, put them in the super MVP. With that, let's move on.
Yeah, so review, design, portal spec. So I want to take your recommendation here, Heine, of focusing on a very specific thing, testing 2 different developers on this specific thing, seeing which one we like so they can build out the super MVP. But this is super MVP, where we're just wanting our developers to build this tiny little feature, which actually is probably kind of complicated. See how they do, go from there. So we're focusing just on the review, design, portal spec, and we focused on that quite a bit when we were running through our super MVP. Here, basically, I've laid out a similar specification on the screen down below. I put an example here. The example that I'd like the developers to kind of work off of is Dropbox's badging and commenting. So, that points them to an article where they can see how that functions on Dropbox. Okay. Dropbox, I'm guessing it hasn't been very well adopted, but if you're working with images in Dropbox, we can, as a team, leave comments on those images, point to different areas, resolve comments, go from there. So we're basically going for a similar thing. We just want it on our ecosystem, and we want it to be email only.
Okay.
Now, do you think the developers will find that helpful, or do you think they'll find that distracting?
You mean the Dropbox part?
Yeah.
I think it could be helpful. Maybe it answers a few questions, as long as it doesn't add a lot of complexity.
Got it.
For instance, it looks like it's tagging people and so on, and you definitely want to take that out.
Right. That's fair. That's fair.
Keep it simple. Okay, so this is let's have a look at it. I'm looking at the screen now. Upload design and leave comments on a specific areas of the design. So what are we uploading? Are we uploading a picture or HTML at this point?
Just the picture. We've still got our versioning functionality. We still want to do our commenting functionality. I've changed the buttons here on the right a little bit for simplicity for this. So instead of being able to upload HTML builds, I've just turned that into an approve button. So okay, when they click approve, nothing really will happen except maybe put a big approve stamp on this screen.
And then you can upload a new one.
And you can upload it, or you can upload a new one. And then when you click on these request redesign, request HTML build, long run, we want this to be robust functionality. But for right now, literally, this is just going to email Will and I that these requests were made on these specific these specific web pages.
Okay, cool. I think we need to limit it more. You got to take out the teammates part for sure.
Okay, I can do that.
I take out the team because as soon as you do that, you already have to do some kind of user whatever. So definitely need to kill that. Upload, add comments, and then approve new features. I think that's more than enough.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
And comments are not specifically on the picture, right? Are they? They're just comments.
They are specific on the picture.
Yeah, sorry, what I mean is specific spot on. Yeah, I don't put an arrow on there or anything, right?
Okay.
I'm asking the question. That's definitely an extra complexity if you want to do that at this point.
I guess I'm wondering it is a layer of complexity, but
it might be worth it.
Yeah, does it test the developer skill?
Enough. Okay, cool. Yeah. Keep it. Yeah, because it is a core feature of the product for sure.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I kind of want to see if the developer, how slick they're able to make that, how easily.
Yeah.
For sure. Yep. So that's basically all we have. I think the other requirement here that we haven't really talked about is we need these pages to be like unique URLs that we can just share with anybody. So we can share with our subcontractors. I'd love for this to just be kind of ready to use immediately in this very MVP format where we have public URLs that have different designs that we can actually share with our subcontractors. I want to get feedback immediately from our subcontractors, what's working for them, what is not, so that when we do kind of roll out a more robust tool, they know what it is. This is our SaaS product, and it's just getting better and better every day. My questions to you from here would be, how much is this costing us? Where do we go from here? We have this specific little project right here. I'm ready to hit the ground running like today on this. Sure. Like what's great about this project is like Will and I need this like now. So it gives us a lot of urgency to build it. And we also think it'll really help us scale out what we're doing and attract new clients. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So here, what you need to do now is put a bid in for this. And what you need is a full stack developer that can build a tool like this. So you do a bid where you don't really say what this is. You say the features, you have to upload a picture, you have to put a comment on that picture, and so on. Like what those, you don't do a full description. You just put in like 3-4 bullets of what this is. And you're probably not going to say what technology they should use, I would assume. You want to use something that is popular, because otherwise you'll never find another developer that can do it. So with technology, just say, hey, we need one of the big tech platforms or whatever. We'll see what they come back with. I use Upwork. I would put that on Upwork. I would put it on as an hourly project. And then I would actually go out and headhunt people. So that's always what I do, because otherwise you'll find a lot of people that are out of your price range and so on. So I would go out, as soon as I'd put it online, I would go out and find people in the price range you're looking for, and people that you like, and just say, hey, I'd like you to bid for this project. And you find 10 of 20 or 20 of those, and some of them are going to be bidding today.
That sounds great. Will, do you have any questions?
No, I think we need to figure out our price range.
Yeah. Again, you are on a relatively limited budget here, as far as I know, and I don't know. You should probably be in $10-15 range here per hour, and that will limit you. But there are extremely talented people in that range too. Okay, this was a lot of fun. It's time to start building. In the next episode, we will go to Upwork and actually find a developer or 2 developers to start building this thing. So make sure you tune in when we really start building. That's it for this episode. Thank you very much for watching. Please make sure you like and subscribe so you know exactly when the next episode lands. Thank you very much.